2024 is looking to be a very exciting year for farming. I've decided to put together a little forecast of the year ahead to give you an idea of where we'll be going on our farming ventures. Some games on this list are brand new, while others have been out for a while. Perhaps you'll find something that you would also like to play, or you can let me know about your own playthrough experiences. I'd love to hear from you. I had planned to start this forecast off by going over Eastward Octopia, the new DLC available for the beloved narrative game, but by the time I got to recording this, we'd already finished it. To be fair, I realize I'm quite late into the year to be posting a year ahead forecast, so I'll have to tell you more about everything it has to offer in a different kind of video sometime soon. To start things off this year, we're continuing on with our playthrough of Doraemon Story of Seasons Friends of the Great Kingdom, the second game in the collaboration between popular children's anime Doraemon and the Story of Seasons franchise. I've really fallen in love with this game, and every play session has been so much fun. The second game took a lot of lessons from the first and made some notable improvements, including reducing the reputation grind as well as adding some unique perspective-shifting vistas to allow for even more gorgeous sightseeing. I think the cast and the side storylines are even more lovable than the first game, and I adore so many of the festivals we've already encountered. Friends of the Great Kingdom, just like the first game, has the same amazing art style, wonderful music, and writing that really puts most of the genre to shame. I'm looking forward to getting to the end, but also dreading everything being over because of all the fun I've had so far. But we still have a good number of adventures ahead of us, and I'm so excited to see where the game takes us before the finale. With Octopia finished up, we're moving on to Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, the winner of this year's Farming Sim election. This game pairs an action RPG with farming, perhaps not unlike Harvestella, where the narrative is central to the gameplay. We'll get to play as Sakuna, a bratty harvest goddess who gets banished from her heavenly home and is sent to live on an island full of demons. There, she'll be pulling double duty, growing rice, and working on clearing out the supernatural nuisances that threaten the mountain village she finds herself in. I'm most excited for the rice farming in this one. Alternative farming methods and settings are always a big interest of mine in looking at new games to play, and I can't wait to see how much depth the farming system has in Sakuna. The combat is also of the side-scrolling variety, which isn't something I have a lot of experience with, so hopefully it won't be too difficult for me to pick up. Once Friends of the Great Kingdom is finished up, we'll be going back in time to play Harvest Moon GB, which was the first game to follow Harvest Moon SNES. As it was originally released for Game Boy and then later re-released for Game Boy Color, there are two visual versions of the game, the traditional monochrome and the color version. I haven't quite figured out which to play, but part of me is leaning towards the monochrome as we've had lots of other games in color since. Interestingly, this game also does not have a romance element, but keeps the farm rating system of the SNES game. So it'll really be all about focusing on making our farm as productive and well-rounded as possible. Additionally, this is the first game that had the option to play as a female protagonist. I'm really looking forward to focusing on our farm management and not having to worry too much about an overarching story. Don't get me wrong, I love a well-written narrative, but it's also nice to tunnel on the farming mechanics sometimes too. And then, on April 9th, we'll be interrupting our carefully plotted out farming schedule to check out the newly released Botany Manor, a beautiful puzzle game centered around a retired botanist conducting experiments in 19th century England. I got to play the demo of this game and was very pleasantly surprised by how fun the puzzles were to work through. Additionally, the premise of a botanist conducting research really does lend continuity to the puzzles while still allowing for a variety of different mechanics to be played with. And let's not forget that absolutely gorgeous home and surrounding gardens we'll be moving through. Some rooms are dark and moody, while others are bright and full of natural light. I really loved the variety of the puzzle settings and appreciated how much care had clearly gone into crafting a space that was simply rendered but poignantly represented the feeling of a lived-in home. I can't wait to see what secrets and plants the manor has in store for us. After Sakuna is all finished up, I'm really excited to hop back in time once again to check out Shepherd's Crossing, which is a farming sim that was originally released on the PlayStation 2 and later got a PSP port. The PSP version of the game was given a re-release on some more modern consoles, including Switch, PC, and PlayStation 4. Interestingly, this game is not about making money, but rather relies on a barter system, where you trade with the surrounding townsfolk. The focus is still on managing your farm, but the game also introduces hunting to the mix along with foraging, both of which are often key parts of the food system in rural communities, but hunting in particular has historically been left out of the farming sim genre. This is a game that I've had on my list for a while, and I'm excited to see what my impression of it is. I find that I don't have the same experiences that a lot of modern farming sim enjoyers have with slower or pared down gaming experiences. And I like that Shepherd's Crossing offers a significant twist to the traditional formula of grinding out money for upgrades. Once we finish Harvest Moon GB, we'll be jumping back to the more modern Story of Seasons games, with Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town. I was a massive fan of the original game, though I spent most of my time playing the female version more Friends of Mineral Town, and sunk countless hours into it on my Game Boy Advance. While we will definitely be going back and playing the original eventually, I'm excited to see how it has been treated in the remake. After A Wonderful Life felt like a really faithful reboot, I have high hopes for this one, though I do feel a bit spoiled that two of my favorites got remakes when so many other games are still waiting. I will miss the original chicken models though. They were some of my favorites in the whole franchise, but perhaps one day we'll get the more realistic bird models to come back. I'm excited to try replaying this game with my much more competent adult ability to multitask and work efficiently. Just like with A Wonderful Life, there were plenty of things I missed the first time around simply because I wasn't very good at the management aspects of the game. Here's to hoping it'll go much better the second time around. After Shepherd's Crossing is all settled, we'll be checking out another new game, though this time we're gardening with a bit of an urban twist in Pocket Oasis. Originally launching on May 8th of this year, we'll probably be visiting a bit later than everyone else. That said, I was really excited to see a game announced that featured a balcony garden, because when I lived in the city, I had a large garden that I kept on my own little deck. You'd be surprised to find out that you can still grow an abundance of fruits, vegetables, herbs, and flowers even within a small space. You just need to pick varieties that work well with the arrangement. This hand-painted gardening sim looks like just the thing to give me some ideas of what I can get growing in pots on my own deck. Outside of our full playthroughs, there's also a number of games I'll be sprinkling into our normal rotation, either as one-off play sessions or as games that we return to time after time. One of those is a game we first tried last year, and which will be making many more appearances, which is the Ranch of Rivershine, one of my favorite games of 2023. This horse ranching sim is still in early access and set to receive plenty of new updates this year. We've got 2 new trails set to launch, one of which I'm hopeful we could get to explore this spring, alongside foal training, new horse coats, and much, much more. I myself have some pretty ambitious and probably doomed breeding programs going, where I'm trying to get some very particular coat color and marking combinations, so we'll see if I manage to achieve any of that before the year's end. I'm going to try and play Rivershine on stream at least once a month, because I really do adore the cozy atmosphere these streams create, and I'm hopelessly obsessed with this game and love to share it. I'm so excited for how much depth the game already offers and all the new adventures I'll be able to go on this year. I've also had my eye on an interesting looking puzzle game called Wise Garden. This monochromatic puzzle game is all about working as a Zen garden designer in feudal Japan. You'll have to take your client's preferences into account as you place rocks and decide which pattern to rake sand into to create the most pleasing configuration. The premise is just very appealing, and although I can sometimes get frustrated with the puzzle games, this one looks like it'll be rather relaxing. Plus, the art style means that we'll be looking at an interesting tableau at every moment. Along the lines of my interest in breeding different color variants of livestock in various farming sims, I've discovered a game focused on just this topic, and that is Koi Farm, a fish breeding sim all about creating and collecting different varieties of koi. As you might know from real life, koi come in many colors and patterns, some of which fetch quite a high price from collectors who want to keep these fish for their beauty. There is also a history of illegal koi poaching that happens around the world, especially in public parks and gardens, where thieves look to find these rare koi patterns to turn a profit. Now, I don't think we have to ward off any criminals in this relaxed game, but I'm excited to see what kinds of patterns we'll be able to discover for ourselves. And now we start getting into uncertain territory. I have two brand new farming sims that are expected to release this year, but we still have no idea of the dates, so it's been a bit difficult to plan out when they might fit into our stream rotation. The first is Fields of Mistria, a pixel farming sim which has a distinctly 90s anime aesthetic to the portraits, which makes me very nostalgic. This game boasts a large cast, the ability to breed animals of different colors, magic-enhanced farming, and plenty of adventure. I think the main draw for this game is definitely going to be the cast, from which you can pick between 12 marriage candidates. I am hopeful that the romance and interpersonal relationships are going to be robust and well written. Although romance is never traditionally the main draw for me, characters that are more than flimsy paper people are always of interest to me, and I'm really crossing my fingers that we get to befriend a really lovable cast in this one. That said, I am also really looking forward to breeding different color variants of my animals because that is something I always really enjoy in games. Plus, all the livestock look very, very cute. The second new release of this year with an ambiguous launch date is Echoes of the Plum Grove, a historically inspired farming sim which takes place in a colonial setting but with a much friendlier society than the actual 18th century boasted. Most interesting in this game for me is that your character can die. Interestingly, if you have children, you are able to continue playing as the next generation, though I assume if you do not have children, your game will just end and you'll have to restart. Something about the brutality of farming in a world that still experiences smallpox really appeals to me. Maybe it is my childhood obsession with Oregon Trail asking for peril to be put back into my games. Either way, I was able to play a smidge of the demo during Steam Next Fest and was really loving the feel of it. I can't wait for it to finally release so that we can finally see all that it has to offer, and potentially fatally wound us with. And that concludes my list of games that I've committed to trying to play in 2024. I'm sure that there will be plenty of other farming games that will make an appearance throughout the year, whether as those we play once in a while, like the Ranch of Rivershine, or additional games that we have time for a full playthrough of. Are any of the games on this list also on your list for 2024? Are there any that you've already played and enjoyed? Be sure to let me know in the comments because I always love talking shop. I hope you all have a 2024 that is as full of greenery and growing this year as mine is sure to be. Until next time, cottagers, take care.